Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is that you are joining us for this very special on-demand workshop. I first off want to say thank you for taking time to join us for what's going to be an informative and enlightening time together. I also want to say thank you to the financial professional who invited you to attend this event because they believe, as I do, that this for you is going to be a transformational few minutes that we spend together. This is something for you that can be truly life-changing for you and your family. Together we're going to take a look at a 7-step process by which you can get completely out of debt. That's right, completely out of debt and learn to create real wealth for your family's financial future. Now, as we walk through these steps, I'm going to show you some real life clients, Mark and Joyce. And we're going to take a look at their financial picture. And I'm going to show you the life-changing impact that a program called Your Family Bank has had on their family. Now, as we get started, I'd like to start with a question. Are you 100% sure that you're going to have a great retirement, or do you have some doubt? Now, think about that question. Are you 100% sure that you're going to have a great retirement, or do you have some doubt? Let me put it this way. What if I could show you how you could get out of debt in an average of 9 years or less, including your home mortgage, and do so without spending any additional money than you're currently spending right now? Does that sound like something that's of interest to you? I believe it does, or you wouldn't be here. And that's what we're going to spend the next several minutes talking about, how you can get out of debt in an average of 9 years or less, including your home mortgage, without spending any more money than you're currently spending right now. But before we go any further, let me briefly introduce myself so you know who's sharing this insight with you today. My name is John Terry, and you see me pictured here with my beautiful wife, Yuri. I've been speaking on financial matters for well over 30 years. I come from a family of bankers and CPAs, and I've previously worked in the insurance and the investment community as a financial planner. I'm a real-life management certified financial coach, a best-selling author, and a few years ago, I discovered what I believe to be one of the best-kept secrets in the world when I learned how you could utilize some little-known strategies that can dramatically accelerate the payoff of your debts, including your home, saving tens of thousands of dollars in interest in the process. And that's what I want to talk to you about in this presentation. Now, again, I'm going to share 7 steps that could dramatically change your life for the better. And at the conclusion of our time together, I'm going to ask you to do one simple thing. I'm going to ask you to get back with the financial professional who invited you to attend this on-demand event so that they can show you how this program can uniquely benefit you. They can answer questions that you may have. And more importantly, they can help you get started on your own financial freedom journey. Fair enough? The financial professional who invited you here to discuss what I'm going to share tonight has been trained to use these concepts and to help families just like you rapidly get out of debt and start the process of accumulating real wealth for the future. And they've asked me to be their spokesman to share with you how you can use these proven strategies to take control of your finances and to be able to take the money that you would have paid in interest to a bank or a lending institution and create real wealth for your family's future. So are you ready to learn this 7-step process? Hey, if you haven't already done so, let me encourage you to grab a pen and a piece of paper. Take a few notes, and we're going to walk through these 7 steps today. All right, here we go. The average American household today, they don't understand money. And as a result of that, here's what we typically see going on in America today. Out of every dollar that the average American earns today, 34 cents of that dollar is being spent to pay interest on debt. Now, that interest goes for our car loans, our credit cards, our college debt, mortgages, or anything else that we have borrowed money from a lending institution or utilized a credit card or in some other way borrowed money, we're going to have to pay that money back plus interest. And on top of that, we're paying taxes. About 40 cents of every dollar that you earn on average is going to pay taxes. Now, I'm not just talking income tax. I'm talking gas tax, water tax, property tax, real estate tax, sales tax, and whatever taxes your state, your county, or your municipality may impose upon you, capital gains taxes from investments, whatever those might be. So out of all the money you spend, there's really around 26 cents left that you can use to really live life on. It's what we call lifestyle money. And if you, like most Americans, are setting aside an average of 3%, that means only 23 cents of every dollar that you earn is actually able to be spent for lifestyle expenses. Your gas, your car, your food, your clothes, your insurance, and the other things you spend money on. Now, most well-meaning financial advisors who haven't been trained in a system like this concentrate just on that 3% number. They're going to come to you and say, look, you're saving 3% and you need to save more. Well, guess what? If we had the ability to save more, we would. But if we're spending 34 cents of every dollar in interest and 40 cents of every dollar in taxes and still having to live life and pay our bills, well, guess what? 3% is all we've got. If there was a better way to do it, we'd already be doing it. Now, the average American family carries about $250,000 in household debt. But I want you to take a look at this chart. If 34% of what we earn is going to interest, 40% is going to taxes, that's the two biggest chunks of that money. What if we could make a difference there? And what could that do for us financially? Well, that's the approach that your family bank takes. You know, if we could show you how to reduce the amount of money you're paying in interest and the amount of money you're paying in taxes, now all of a sudden you've got more money to spend on lifestyle and living expenses, which allows you to also be able to save more money for your financial future. That's the goal of what we try to accomplish with your family bank. Now, there's 7 steps to get through this process, and let me share those with you. Step 1 is knowledge. You know, we all have knowledge about a lot of things. Some of us know about sports, others about web design, others about social media, others about cooking, cars, golf, fishing, you name it. We all have knowledge of something, but we are also ignorant of things that we don't know. And the sad part is, oftentimes we don't know what we don't know. But even if we have knowledge, until we put that knowledge to work, that knowledge is only head knowledge and it creates no power. It gives us no opportunity to see success until we apply it. You know, we all want to retire well, but until we know the rules of money and how money works and apply those rules, it's only then that we can see change in our lives. Now, what if using the real concepts that we teach through your family bank, what if we could show you how to reduce the volume of interest that you're paying to lenders? What if we could show you how you can get completely out of debt in an average of 9 years or less? And at the same time, we could improve your cash flow. We could decrease your taxes. We could help you save for college, and we could help you retire with tax-favored income. Now, I think this is the American dream that most of us signed up for when we went to work. But as you've seen, most Americans are failing to live this dream. So at your family bank, this is what we teach, how you can make this a reality in your life. But unfortunately, far too many Americans are playing the game of life. And if you've ever played that crazy board game, every time you feel like you take a step forward, all of a sudden you find yourself going 2 steps backwards. And you wonder if you're ever going to get to the end of the journey and have an opportunity to retire and enjoy the type of lifestyle you've always dreamed of. Well, for most Americans today, it's a sad reality. Here's what we know. Most Americans on average are going to earn around $2 million in total lifetime earnings. But at the age of 65, there's an awakening when they realize they've only saved on average around $60,000 in available assets that they can use to fund their retirement. And that includes the equity in their home. Now, I don't think that's the American dream that any of us signed up for. I think what we saw on the slide before was the American dream that we all wanted. But until we understand how to gain the knowledge that we need to have a different outcome take place in our lives, this is the likely scenario that most of us are going to end up at. Another way to look at that is this. Out of the $2 million that will typically go through an average American family's hands during their working career, they only manage to save 3% of that. That is not the American dream. So how do we fix that? That leads us to step 2, cash flow. When you track your money, you control it. Or the way I like to say it, what you give attention to, you become intentional about. Now, think about this. Experience has taught us that by utilizing a simple spending planner and tracking the money that comes into our bank accounts and flows out of our bank accounts, we become better at identifying bad spending habits that we have embraced over our lifetime that we don't even think about anymore, that have just become habitual ways we spend. What if we could find the inefficient use of dollars that we're spending and redirect those dollars where they could make a more powerful impact in our financial future? That's learning to count the cost and managing money in an efficient way. We plan for the unexpected, but we should also be planning for the expected. About 80% of our life we plan for, but there's a 20% of our life where we have things that come up that are beyond our control. The Your Family Bank system helps you put together a plan that is strategically designed to help you live and understand how to manage money in real life, because emergency scenarios are going to happen. A washing machine or a refrigerator is going to break. A hailstorm may come through and destroy the roof on your house. A tornado may knock a tree over and crush your car, or you may wreck a car in an accident. A child or you may get injured and end up in the hospital. Life happens, and those things are typically beyond our control. But have you heard about the guy who went to the car dealership to just pick up a couple of brochures and he comes home driving a new car? Well, how did that happen? It's an emotional spending decision. Well, or maybe the woman who decided to go shopping and she came home with a whole new wardrobe of clothes, even though her closet's already full. Why? Because it was the end of season and everything was on sale. Another emotional spending decision. When I buy myself an Oreo cookie shake on the way home because I've had a hard day at work, that's an emotional decision. But guess what? Emotional buying decisions tend to govern our lives if we're not being conscious and aware of how we're spending our money. And if we don't realize that much of our spending is emotional, we don't allow for that. We don't control it and we don't manage it. If we're not paying attention, we're not being intentional about how we're spending our money. And we end up looking at that first graph of how the typical American spends money and ends up working their entire career saving only 3% and not accumulating the wealth to be able to live the lifestyle that you deserve. So let's plan for it. A bank is a business. You'd go today and you put $10,000 in the bank may today in this low interest rate environment pay you 1%. But then you walk in tomorrow to borrow $10,000. Are they going to loan you money at 1%? Of course not. They're going to loan you money at 8, 14, 15. If you're using your credit card, it could be as high as 29% interest. Well, how would you like to be the bank? What if you could use your money like the bank does? And every dollar that you earn, you could give it 2 jobs. That money could be earning interest for you today. And in the event that money has to be borrowed, you could create compounding interest for yourself. Does that sound like something you might be interested in? That is one of the concepts that we teach with Your Family Bank. Now, step 3 is learning how to minimize and eliminate debt in our lives. Think about this. Every decision that you make regarding money is a spending decision. You either spend it all now or you set some aside to spend later. And if you've committed tomorrow's dollars today because you've borrowed money and you're having to pay that money back plus interest, that's money you're not going to have available working for you in your financial future. So learning to minimize debt and reducing the amount of money for the interest that we're having to pay back for the money we've already borrowed is a way that we can begin to change our scenario for the better and to create that real wealth that we've dreamed of. So let's take a look at a typical American family, Mark and Joyce. Now, this is a real couple that has been through the Your Family Bank program. So let's learn a little bit about Mark and Joyce. You know, Mark is 37, Joyce is 35, and they want to retire at 65. Mark earns around $3,900 a month. Joyce brings in $3,100 a month. They want to retire with a monthly income of $5,000 a month. They've got a total of 3 children, 3, 4, and 8. But because they're living life the way typical Americans do, and because they lack the knowledge of being able to be intentional about how their money is spent, they don't have any savings right now, so they can't save for college. When asked what they want their money to do, see if this sounds like you and most of us, the typical American family. They want to increase the amount of money they're going to have in retirement, reduce their debt, and ultimately get rid of it as quickly as possible. They want to get their spending under control because they know they're not being efficient in how they're managing their money. They want to save for college for the kids, and they want to increase their savings. Now, who of us listening to this message doesn't want these things, at least some of these things, for ourselves? So I think we can all relate to what Mark and Joyce want for themselves. Now, when we look at what they have, Mark and Joyce have put a little bit of money aside. They've got $6,000 cash in an emergency fund that they can use, and they've been making contributions of around $3,600 a year into the 401ks at their respective workplace. Hey, it's a start, but it's not enough. And then we've got to take a look at their debts. Now, they've got $460 in a Visa card, $2,400 medical bill. They've got some credit card debt, some furniture that they've purchased. They've got a car. They've got a mortgage. But if we look at the average interest rate that they're paying on all of the different things that they are paying interest on, it's right at 10%. They're paying $2,177 a month. And guess what? By the time they get ready to pay it off, the balance of what they owe, $180,198. So think about that. This is what they currently owe, $180,198. But now let's tack on the interest. And by the time they end up paying everything off, that $180,000, oh my goodness, it becomes $380,157. That's almost $200,000 in additional interest that they're going to be paying. Think about that. $199,959 in interest, and it's going to take them 30 years to get completely out of debt. So what does retirement look like them for today? $36,500 currently saved for retirement. They're putting away $300 a month. They're earning around 5% rate of return. They're in a 25% tax bracket. So if we look at what happens 30 years down the road, they're going to have accumulated around $408,000, almost $409,000 30 years later. But after taxes, because when money comes out of that 401k, they're going to pay taxes on the whole bit. $306,668 is going to be the money they have for retirement after taxes are paid. But what if we could have a different outcome for Mark and Joyce using the Your Family Bank 7-step process? What if we were able to show them, and this is actually what we did, how they could get completely out of debt and be free of their lenders in 7.8 years? If we could help them save $122,000 in interest, and we could free up $2,177 a month that they could begin to put towards their retirement and other saving needs that they had. At the end of 30 years, they could now have savings totaling $1,004,387. So think about that. Under their current plan, after taxes, they would end up with $306,668. Now, that's not bad, but if we look at the Your Family Bank plan, $1,004,387. Think about the difference that utilizing a plan that has the knowledge to rapidly reduce your debt can do for you. It's amazing. Using Your Family Bank, we were able to help Mark and Joyce get out of debt in 7.8 years without spending one more penny than they were currently spending. We saved them $122,739 in interest. And if they continued the program as we showed you, they've got over $1 million in savings. Now, most people, when they see this, immediately make a decision. They want to be like Mike and Joyce. How about you? Would you not want to have this as your outcome if you could have the left column or the right column? How many want to have the left column when they could have the right column as their reality for their financial future? But let's look at it a different way. What is the cost not to engage and utilize the strategies taught by Your Family Bank? Well, they could have earned over $1 million that they could have created for their retirement outcome. What about the $122,000 they saved in interest? And we back out what we know they were going to save for retirement anyway. If they don't follow the Your Family Bank program, they've essentially giving up benefits worth $820,000 to them and their family. Now, why in the world would you not want to take advantage of a program that could make this big a difference in your family's financial future? Now, step 4 is we've got to address the monster of taxes, because every year it seems like there's a new tax law. You know, we all hope when we sit down with our tax planner every year that things are going to get better and the rules are going to change in their favor. But guess what? They typically don't. You know, if you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got. That's what my mom told me growing up. But I was reminded of this by one of my forward-thinking CPA friends not too long ago. He says, you can pay Uncle Sam more or you can pay Uncle Sam less. And if you pay him less, that means you've got more money in your pocket that you can use to spend for yourself. You know, I like that idea. The less you pay in taxes, the more you get to keep. And that same CPA says it doesn't matter how much you make. What matters is how much you get to keep at the end of the day. And so if we can reduce the amount of interest you're paying on the debt that you've accumulated and teach you how not to accumulate that debt anymore and help you reduce the taxes that you're paying, you get to keep more money. Isn't that amazing? You know, now the question for all of us is, where are tax rates going to go in the future? You know, if we look at what's going on in our country, if we look at the enormous debt that we as a nation have accumulated, at some point we have got to pay the piper as a nation. And when asked if we think taxes are going to go higher, or they're going to go lower, or they're going to stay the same, most people agree that taxes are going to go up in the future. So if we think taxes are going to be going higher, does it make any sense to continue to postpone taxes? Is that really a good idea? Well, if you're putting money into an IRA or a 401k or other tax-favored retirement plan, that's exactly what you're doing. You are postponing your taxes until the future. So the question for all of us is, when should we start engaging in proactive tax planning? Well, the answer is now. Think about it this way. This sounds like a horrible business partnership, yet this is the business we find ourselves in when you utilize a qualified retirement plan like an IRA or a 401k. What if a 401k were to go to hire you and say, hey, I've got a business proposal for you. I want you to front all the money and I want you to take all the risk. You're going to manage the business on a day-to-day basis. And 30 years from now, I'm going to tell you how much of what you've accumulated that you owe me, and you're going to have to pay me 30 years down the road. You put up all the money, you've taken all the risk, you've managed all the risk, and you've accumulated the wealth, and then I get to stick my hand out and say, you get to give me what I ask, and if I change the rules between now and then, I can ask for more, and there's nothing you can do about it. Do you want to go into business with somebody like that? Well, if you are investing all of your retirement dollars in IRAs, 401ks, in similar qualified plans, that's who you're going into business with, and that's Uncle Sam. Do you know how an IRA works at the end? Let me show you something I found out that I think you'll find interesting. Let's say we put $5,000 a year in an IRA that's earning 10%. Now, with the rule of 72, we know that those funds are going to double every 7 years. So what advantage do I have by utilizing an IRA? Well, you say I get a tax deduction at the end of each year, right? So age 45, guess what? I get to deduct $1,250. At age 52, that deduction is $2,500 and so on. So behind age 65, I'm going to have saved $10,000 in taxes. Now, think about how that money is going to grow over time. When I begin to pull the money out of that IRA at age 66, if I'm in a 25% tax bracket, what do I owe Uncle Sam? Guess what? $10,000. All I saved over my working career was 10 grand. And in the first year of retirement, all of a sudden I'm going to owe Uncle Sam an equivalent tax savings to what I saved over my working career. How's that fair? But guess what? That's what Uncle Sam is doing every single day to taxpayers across this country. My point in showing you this is this. By reducing your tax liability, you can put more money in your pocket. Where's the tax savings in the traditional way, using conventional wisdom, when there's another way that can avoid this altogether? So let's take a closer look. Let's look at a $10,000 investment for 28 years at 7% with an average tax rate of 25%. So this is what your account would look like. $41,900 in a taxable investment where I'm paying taxes every year. $49,866 in a tax-deferred investment that I would have to pay taxes on when I begin to pull that money out, or $66,488 in a tax-free investment I will never pay taxes on when I begin to withdraw that money. It's important to know that there are different ways that we can plan for our retirement. And understanding which assets are taxed when is an overlooked strategy that many financial planners and many financial advisors don't take into account. Getting started early on in utilizing tax-favored planning can make a huge difference in your retirement. And it can really get you to the point that allows you to enjoy the type of retirement that you really dreamed of down the road. Now, step 5 is managing risk. One of the last things you want to do is to put all of your money into an investment only to see that investment go belly up? And yet, how many people gamble their entire life savings with a roll of the dice? Oftentimes, we do that without even thinking about it. You know, there's a lot of risks that we face throughout life: taxes, the stock market, inflation, emergencies that may arise. We may get injured or sick and suffer a disability. We might get sued. Somebody might defraud us out of our money. We may live longer than anticipated, or we may have a family member, maybe a breadwinner, die too early. All of these are risks that we incur, but being able to manage those risks are important. And a couple of risks that we really need to think about that are often overlooked is the fact that today's retiree, those of us that are moving into retirement age in a few years because of medical advances in medical technology, are going to live longer in retirement than any previous generation. Retirement, for those of us today that are saving for retirement down the road, we may spend up to a third of our lifetime in retirement. So making sure that we've saved enough is going to be important. You know, think about the people that were going to retire in 2001 and in 2008 when we saw two major stock market corrections. They lost 50% of their life savings in the market. So the decision was, do I retire on 50 cents on the dollar, or do I keep working? Many of them that went back to work or kept working in 2001 spent from 2001 to 2008 earning back what they lost, only to lose it again in 2008. And again, it took them another 5 to 7 years to earn back what they lost in '01 and again in '08. Managing risk and taking some risk off the table is an important strategy that we teach in the Your Family Bank system. Now, step 6 is taking a look at the big picture, because you've got to know where you're going if you're going to figure out how in the world you're going to get there. So think about this. If I'm going to Florida or Maine or California, I'm going to take a different route to get there from where I currently am living today. I'm not going to take the same road to go different directions. But I have to know where I'm going in order to pick the best route for me to get from point A to point B. Well, that's why we believe it's important that you look at the big picture when you're trying to create a plan to get out of debt and to save for retirement. You've got to have a blueprint. You need a plan. You've got to have a roadmap so that you know where you are and you know where you're going. So what's your definition of retirement? At what age do you think you'd like to retire? Do you have a specific plan in place to make that happen? For most Americans, that answer is no. I mean, we saw that in the real life example of Mark and Joyce. They didn't have a plan in place. They couldn't tell you when they were going to get out of debt. And of course, they couldn't tell you what retirement wanted to look like. For them, it was a wish and a dream, but nothing more. You know, it would surely be a much better scenario for all of us if we knew all of those things in advance and we had a plan to make those happen. Well, one of the ways that Your Family Bank helps is to address the 3 phases of retirement. Well, you've got to put a plan in place for maximization. During your working career, you've got to make sure that you are putting money aside. The problem is most folks put too much focus on accumulation while they ignore maximizing the opportunity during the inflation stage of money and retirement and the workaday world in which we live and life in general. But then there also comes the distribution phase of retirement. And you've got to figure out how to maximize that as well. And if we can learn to maximize accumulation and maximize distribution through maximizing the strategies that we use to eliminate interest, to get out of debt, and to maximize the amount of money that we can save, we can ultimately have a better experience and a better outcome in retirement. Now, at Your Family Bank, the plans we put together maximize all of these phases and they put them to work for you. So the big picture plan, and we think about the benefits of what that does in big picture planning. Once we put this into place for you, here's what typically happens. You're not going to argue as much about money because you're going to know how your money is being managed. You're going to pay attention to your money. You're going to be intentional about it. You're going to find the money that you're wasting now, and you're going to put that to better use. And by doing so, you're going to improve your cash flow. And when we do that, it's going to dramatically increase your savings. And it's also going to give you the opportunity to accelerate getting out of debt faster than you ever believed possible. We're also going to show you how to prioritize the types of accounts that you're going to use to plan for retirement and how you fund those dollars during your working careers and how you access those accounts in retirement so that you can retire with tax-favored income. So let's go back to Mark and Joyce. Remember, they were going to have debt that they had to pay off of a little over $180,000. And if they did nothing but maintain the status quo, that $180,000 was going to cost them over $380,000 and take them 30 years to become debt-free. Now, what did we do for Mark and Joyce, and what can we do for you? By utilizing your family bank and the strategies that we teach, Mark and Joyce were able to get out of debt in only 7.8 years. Now, instead of paying $199,000 in interest, they only paid $77,000. They saved $122,739 in interest. Now, let me ask you, is $122,739 a lot to you? You know, it is to me. And I think most people would say, absolutely. I didn't realize that I was throwing $122,739 away and giving that money to a banking institution when I could have been spending that money on myself. Now, think about this. We also, utilizing this debt acceleration program, freed up $2,177,000 a month that they could direct towards retirement or other spending needs. Now, let me say, of course, Mark and Joyce at some point may have other things they have to buy. They might need a car. They might decide they want a boat, or they want to upscale a house or do something else in the next 30 years of their life. But the concept of your family bank is to show you a better way that if you do need to buy those things, how you can use your own money to buy those things. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if they were to use the money they freed up for retirement, they could retire with well over $1 million of wealth for retirement. So my question for you is really this. Would you like to include yourself in a conversation like this? When most people see this, they raise their hand and say, I want to be like Mark and Joyce. Would that be you? If so, you need to have a Your Family Bank conversation with the financial professional that invited you to this on-demand event. So let's review. Number one, you need specific, specialized knowledge to understand how to put a plan in place to make this work for you. That's part of what we teach with Your Family Bank. Step two, we're going to show you how to improve your cash flow. Why? Because what you pay attention to, you become intentional about. And then step three, we're going to put together for you a plan to help you rapidly reduce and eliminate your debt. At the same time, you are going to use step four, and we're going to show you how to reduce the amount of money that you're going to pay Uncle Sam. We're going to have a conversation about how much risk you should be taking with your money and give you some strategies to minimize risk, while at the same time taking a big picture approach to helping you plan your financial future wisely. So, John, you said at the beginning there are 7 steps in the process. So, what's step 7? Well, step 7 is really the most important step, and that's your decision whether or not you're going to move forward. This is where most people fail. The goal is being debt-free, owning your home, owning your car, taking vacations where you want to go, when you want to go, and being prepared financially for retirement. But without a plan, you plan to fail by default. I love this statement. It says, a goal without a plan is just a wish. And if you don't have a plan, your goal is nothing more than a dream. So, what are the next steps for you? I'd like to ask you to do one thing, and I told you that at the beginning of our time together. I'd like you to get with the financial professional that invited you to attend this on-demand event. And they're going to show you a plan to see if it makes sense for you or not. They're going to gather some personal information and put together a big picture report. They're going to analyze the data of your unique situation. And they're going to run reports based upon your numbers, your goals, your hopes, and your dreams. And then they're going to schedule a time to get with you and walk you through a big picture analysis and show you a plan and a strategy of how you can rapidly get yourself out of debt and create the margin financially that you need to create real wealth for the future. But here's the deal. When they come to present this plan to you, it's got to fit all the right boxes. Not too long, it's not too short, it's not too hot, it's not too cold. It's the Goldilocks and Three Bears approach. It needs to be just right for you. You need to understand how this plan works. You need to understand what it's going to cost and the commitment that you're going to have to make. And you've got to be okay with that. And if it makes your life just a little bit better, but not a lot better, then maybe it's not the plan for you. But if you don't take the time to do the analysis and to see what your family bank big picture strategy can do for you, you've just decided to change nothing in your life. You've decided to stay in the status quo. And unfortunately, that's where far too many Americans find themselves. We saw Mark and Joyce's number, and those numbers were unique to them. And for each and every one of you that take the time to meet with the financial professional that invited you here, your numbers are going to be different. It might take you 7 years to get out of debt. It might take you 11. But the key is to understand the steps that you're going to have to take and what it's going to cost you financially and in a personal commitment to changing things so that you have a better outcome. One of my mentors says, when you change the way you look at things, things begin to change. And when you change the way you look at debt and the way you look at money, and the fact that out of that $2 million you're probably going to earn over your working career, the question for all of us is, how much am I going to be able to save? And the sad thing about it is, far too many people wait until they get right up and ready to enter retirement. And then they look back and they have that not aha moment, but that oh no moment. Things could have been different if they took an action step today. So let me encourage you to take a few minutes to reach out to the financial professional that invited you here, to schedule a strategy meeting with them. It won't take a long time for them to gather the information they need, and it'll only take them a few days to put the report together and have an opportunity to come back and to show you what your family bank can do to change your world. And then it's up to you. They simply need a few simple answers to a few simple questions. They're not going to need your personal information. They just need to know about your debts and about your assets, contributions to retirement plans you may be making, and a few simple questions they need answered just like that. We actually have a data collection sheet that they can share with you that you can utilize to put the information together they're going to need to run a report for you. Carly Fiorina, who ran Hewlett-Packard, made a statement in her book, Find Your Way, I think is powerful, and I'd like to close with it. She says this: the status quo has great power, and most people are willing to stay in the status quo. But if you want to change things for the better, you've got to be willing to challenge the status quo. And that's what the financial professional that invited you to this event is hoping that you'll do. Be willing to change things for the better by challenging the status quo and spending a few minutes with them so that they can put together a report to show you what a better outcome for you can look like. Hey, I want to thank you for taking time to spend this few minutes with me. I hope you found it valuable. And I know when you take a few minutes to spend some time with the Your Family Bank representative that invited you here, your world is going to change for the better. I'm John Terry, and I want to say thank you for being a part of this special event. And I'm looking forward to being able to hear your success story as you reduce your debt, eliminate your debt, and begin to build real wealth for the future. Thanks for joining me, and have a great day.